Hello, everyone. This is Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com. Today we are going over another hand from the Los Angeles Poker Classic, $10,000 buy-in World Poker Tour freeze-out tournament where you cannot re-enter if you go broke. Again, very early in the day, playing 50-100. This is the first level of the tournament. A loose-aggressive kid makes it 300 from first position, and I think folding this king-queen is perfectly fine. I also think 3-betting it is okay if you think that you'll have some fold equity. This is a nice hand that does contain two blockers. Remember, we talked about blockers a little bit last time. If you didn't watch the previous video on Poker News, go back and watch that. You can find all of my past videos on YouTube. You can just probably search Jonathan Little on YouTube and they'll come right up. I have a strategy video playlist, so you can go back and watch all those, along with my podcast, Weekly Poker Hand. If you enjoy the videos here on Poker News, definitely check out Weekly Poker Hand. I think we're on episode 140 or something like that. So you can go back and watch a lot of educational poker hands on your iTunes device, on your Apple device, on your Android device. Also on JonathanLittlePoker.com, you can watch the videos. JonathanLittlePoker.com/WPH. Anyway, here with King Queen, I think you can go either way. As your opponents play worse, you should be more inclined to call. But if your opponents are good, you probably want to 3-bet or fold this. So I could see myself going either way here. If I was playing this today, I'd probably just put it right in the muck versus a loose aggressive kid raising from early position. But calling's fine. I don't have a problem with this. You have to be very cautious with the big cards that could conceivably be dominated by the early position raising range. Because if you think about the hands that most people raise with from early position, that's going to be stuff like ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack, king-queen, and then aces, kings, queens, jacks, 10s, 9s, 8s, stuff like that. And pretty much every unpaired hand I listed has my hand dominated. So you have to be very careful. Anyway, flop comes queen 8-7. That's great for me. Small blind and big blind both called. And now everyone checks around to me on the flop. So we're playing four ways, pot's 1,200. I'm going to be betting about 800 in this spot the majority of the time if I am going to bet. And I definitely think we need to bet with this hand. I would also bet with all of my draws. I bet with ace queen. I bet with queen jack if I had it. I mean, I could have queen jack suited here, I suppose. So that's usually what I'm going to do in this scenario. I think this is perfectly fine to bet. We don't want to check so much in this scenario because versus three players, our opponents are going to have some amount of equity. And if I bet and get called or raised, if I check and then the turn is, say, a heart or a 9 or a 10 or a jack or an ace, I'm certainly not loving it. So I like a bet here, probably about 800, which is what I do. Small blind fold, big blind raises to 2,000. And now, wow, loose aggressive kid calls. The initial preflop raiser calls. So he checked, I bet, someone check raised, and then he called. All right, so when we try to narrow these players' ranges, let's first talk about the loose aggressive kid and the big blind. When I bet 800 and he makes it 2,000, I typically don't read into bet sizes of people who I perceive to be good too much. But whenever someone check raises small, and 2.5x is pretty small, especially when I bet not gigantic or anything on the flop, this screams strength because this player is out of position, and he says, from out of position, I'm going to give you great odds. So if he's giving me great odds from out of position, that kind of implies that he loves his hand and he thinks he has a huge equity advantage. So if he thinks he has a huge equity advantage, which hands make sense to be check raising here? I think it's going to be hands like ace-queen, queen 8, queen 7 if he has it. He may not even have those hands. 8-7, pocket 8s, pocket 7s, and then stuff like 10-9 of hearts and jack 10 of hearts and jack 9 of hearts and 6-5 of hearts and 5-4 of hearts. So there's really, really good draws or premium made hands. So how am I doing versus the really good draws? Well, I'm slightly ahead. So I don't want to fold versus those. I'm flipping versus those. I'm not in great shape, but if we knew he had exactly a draw, we certainly can't fold. But how am I doing versus the premium made hands? Well, I'm absolutely crushed. I'm crushed by that whole range I just listed. The best case scenario is when he has 8-7, and even then I'm drawing to a king or a queen, right? So I think I would actually just fold this versus the loose aggressive kid's check raise. I could see calling the 1,200. The problem with folding the 1,200 is that for 1,200 more is that we're getting great odds to call. So are we going to win some small portion of the time based on our pot odds? Maybe, maybe not. It's tough to say. It depends on exactly how wide the loose aggressive kid's range is. Anyway, I'm going to proceed with caution. If this player made it 2,800, I'd be much happier calling. Even though we're getting worse odds, I think his range is going to be much wider, including a few more draws that are not quite so premium. So facing this size, I'm going to be a little bit cautious. Now, when the loose aggressive kid cold calls this raise, it went bet, raise, and then call, this guy should be very strong. I mean, I'm thinking here like kings, queens, aces, and then just really good draws. Maybe ace, queen. I don't necessarily think he should check a lot of those hands on the flop, but maybe he will. He could also have sets. Want to make that clear. I think he could certainly have queens, eights, or sevens. Probably not queens because I have a queen in my hand. When there's a queen on the board, there are 3 combinations of pocket queens available. Whenever I have a queen in my hand, now there's only 1 combination of pocket queens available, so he's way more likely to have eights or sevens. So this is a spot where now I have an incredibly easy fold. Even though I do have top pair, a backdoor flush draw, second kicker, this is about the easiest fold in the world. If I had ace queen, I would also fold. If I had 8-7, what would I do with 8-7? Man, that would be a tough spot. I mean, I guess this just goes to show how obvious of a situation this is to fold king queen that I would consider folding 8-7 here, because I think our opponents both have really strong ranges. The problem with 8-7 is that we block pocket 8s and pocket 7s and 8-7 for our opponents. So now we're more likely to be against hands like exactly pocket queens or a bunch of draws or overpairs. So I don't think we can fold 8-7, but I do think we should be folding king queen, ace queen. Aces and kings I think are also just a fold here. If I had aces or kings, obviously I probably don't. 8-7 I don't think we can fold. Queen 8, queen 7 I don't think we can fold. If I had a good draw, I would definitely call here. This is the one downside to check raising small, assuming this loose aggressive kid has a premium made hand, is that if I have a draw, I only have to put in 1,200 more into what's now going to be a 7,200 pot, right? So I can call with all of my draws very, very happily. And even though I do have a backdoor flush draw here with the queen of hearts, that's not quite good enough. So I'm going to fold here. Very, very easy fold and just get out of the way. You know, you put in a little bit of money and I'm clearly beat. And the thing is that if I'm not beat, I'm usually going to be against one premium draw and then one guy who's making some error with something like queen jack. But this loose aggressive kid's range, the initial preflop raiser is so incredibly strong here. There is no way this guy does not have me crushed. We might be okay versus the initial check raiser, but we are not okay at all versus this loose aggressive kid. I know I have both labeled as loose aggressive kids, but versus the preflop raiser, we are just absolutely demolished. So anyway, 3,700 bet on the turn. Guy calls. 3 of clubs on the river, so it bricks off. I mean, I don't know what these players have. This loose aggressive kid, though, is certainly taking this guy for a ride. I don't know what this guy has either. He could just certainly have a premium hand as well, but this guy, the preflop raiser, loves his hand. So clearly he does not fold. I mean, maybe he had like 10-9 of hearts, but that's pretty rare. So it actually happened to be set over set. So even though the initial preflop raiser did lose his hand, like I said, he was clearly doing his best to trap this guy. And I think the player with pocket 8s played his hand perfectly fine as well. I mean, this is a good example of why you just want to check raise, flop, bet turn, and bet river. And I think we analyzed it pretty well to see that his small check raise size clearly indicated something about his range, where normally I would not read into that so much, the bet size, the small check raise. But I think it does matter when they make it especially small from out of position. It's like those two combination, or the combination of those two factors should lead you to think most likely that his range is going to be stronger. Now, of course, your opponent could be mixing it up. The problem with him mixing it up and check raising small with 7-6, for example, is that he's roping you in with, he's giving you very good pot odds to call, right? And you really don't want to give your opponent good pot odds to call when you have bottom pair. So that's going to be it for this hand. If you enjoyed this, definitely check out my podcast, Weekly Poker Hand. You can watch all the videos at jonathanlittlepoker.com/WPH. Thanks again to Poker News for hosting these videos. I hope you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, tell the people at Poker News. Let them know that you appreciate it. They work hard to make sure these are put up every single week, so huge thanks to them. Be sure to check back next week for another educational poker hand on pokernews.com. Thanks for watching.